I also am here to talk about the Georgia Recovery Initiative. So a lot of people are like, okay, what's the Georgia Recovery Initiative? So I think that's important. But what we're about, supporting recovery, self-determination, and hope in Georgia. Oh, my clicker might not be working. There we go. So what is it? It's a movement. That word movement is really important because initiatives and things like that, they have an end. This is continual. So it's a movement promoting recovery in Georgia. It was formed in 2011. And the next paragraph is really important because it's a collaborative. It's a group of people from all different walks. There's people from the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities that are involved. Mark Baker, he's the director of the Office of Recovery Transformation. The state of Georgia has an Office of Recovery Transformation. That's fantastic. Stakeholders in the community, service providers are involved, advocates are involved, and a lot of people in recovery like myself. And so what are we trying to do? We're trying to make Georgia into a recovery-oriented system of care. And so that other people can experience what I did, which is joy and happiness in life. We embrace recovery from all things, and that is, again, through that partnership. The Georgia Mental Health Consumer Network, the Georgia Council on Substance Abuse, and the Georgia Parent Support Network, and Sue Smith, their wonderful executive director. Those ladies work together tirelessly, and it has a trickle-down effect because all of us that work at the network, and Owen Doherty, I always have to mention Owen because he is someone that I've worked with closely over the past year and a half or so, and he is an incredible advocate for recovery. He works with Neil at the Georgia Council. He does incredible stuff. And Angie from the Georgia Parent Support Network, we've worked close together. It's a trickle-down effect. It's about recovery in Georgia, and it's because of wonderful leadership and the partnerships that exist between those agencies. All right, so what we believe that recovery happens in communities. Why are we here? Because recovery happens in communities. We can't sit in Atlanta and tell Dublin how to do recovery because you know what works well in your community. You know what the natural supports are in your community. You know that you have CSB of Middle Georgia here and what they're about. There's all sorts of great stuff going on here so that people can live a life of recovery and independence. And so we want to highlight that locally. The other, and this is key, and I mentioned it already, but multiple pathways to recovery. There are people that use 12-step meetings, and that is fantastic. I love 12-step meetings. I think they're wonderful. It didn't work for me. It actually kept me from recovery. But I still think they're incredible, and I hope that everybody who can finds recovery through those 12-step meetings. Some people find it through faith-based. They find it at their church. They find it at their whatever religion they may be a part of. There's groups that involve just mental health. There's groups that involve co-occurring disorders. Some people just go to their family, and some people dig ditches. I dug a ditch. That's how I found recovery. But that's okay because I found a way to live a joyful, happy life that I want to live. And I'm finding a way to give back. I think that's really important too. So it's a journey. Every single pathway to recovery is valid. Maybe my clicker is working because every time I hit the button, maybe, kind of, all right. So what have we done well in Georgia? The Office of Recovery Transformation was established in Georgia. That's a big deal. So the Georgia Recovery Initiative approached the Department of Behavioral Health, and that office was established. There's actually a national one. There's an Office of Recovery in the White House, which is fantastic. And it's a person in recovery that leads that. The partnership between the Georgia Mental Health Consumer Network, the Georgia Council on Substance Abuse, the Office of Recovery Transformation, and I think I mentioned all the agencies. I got lost there. We went around the state and we did 31 listening sessions because, again, recovery comes from the community. So what do you guys say recovery is about here? So we went all around the state of Georgia. A definition and principles of recovery were developed, which is hugely big deal. Over the course of a year, from what the communities told us, we supported the development of that recovery definition and guiding principles. We found champions of recovery. You have some in your local community. I have to highlight Matt and Elizabeth, Matt Rainey and Elizabeth Button. Elizabeth's got a hat on back there. Give them a shout out. They heard about something that was going on, and they said, we want to be there. That's what and now I'm walking in front of the thing. That's what being a champion of recovery is about. We want to be there. We want to be at that table. We want to support recovery however possible. We were asked to keep coming back. This is big because we kept coming back. We're still coming back. Years later, I think it started fiscal year 12 or 13, somewhere in there. I'm looking at the executive directors over there, and they're just laughing and having a good time. Look, they're sitting at the same table. Substance use and mental health are sitting at the same. That's a big deal, guys. I mean, we have something going on here in Georgia that's really, really incredible. And I want to make sure that you guys know that. Because we have these agencies in the state that are all working together to support recovery and to help the local communities. And I think that's really important. I wanted to get someone to read this, but just so everyone can hear it, I'm going to go ahead and read it. Recovery is a deeply personal, this is what the communities in Georgia told us. Recovery is a deeply personal, unique, and self-determined journey through which an individual strives to reach his or her full potential. Persons in recovery improve their health and wellness by taking responsibility and pursuing a fulfilling and contributing life while embracing the difficulties one has faced. Recovery is not a gift from any system. It is nurtured by relationships and environments that provide hope, empowerment, choices, and opportunity. Recovery belongs to the person. It's a right, and it's the responsibility of us all. Wow, right? Like, that's deep. But you guys said that. The communities in Georgia said that. That's what they told us. That's what we heard. It emerges from hope. It's person-driven. It's strengths-based. I love that. It's strengths-based. Person-centered. It's about what I care about, what my goals are, what my passions are, and what matters to me. It's age-dependent. Recognize the wisdom of the lived experience. Some of the wisest people I've ever met are people who have been on a long-term recovery journey. Occurs via many pathways. It's holistic, supported by peers, allies, advocates, and families. My mom's here, by the way, if I didn't mention that to you. She's right there. Joyce Hoskinson. I'd give you her phone number, but hey, she stood up and took a bow. Is nurtured through relationships and social networks. What else has come? So, two really big things that we heard as we went out to the local communities was, we want more community events and activities to raise awareness about recovery. So the symposiums, that's what this is about. It's raising local awareness. It's having folks like our law enforcement in the back hearing this stuff. Thank you for coming. Because it's important. We've had mayors, we've had legislators on a national level come to speak. We've had people from all throughout the community come because this is really important to Georgia community. So again, thank you for being here. The other thing that they said was, we hear you talking about this recovery thing. And this came more from the service providers. We hear you talking about it, but how do we operationalize that? We've got a lot of other stuff going on. And people that are involved with the service provider locally, they know that there's a lot of things going on in the state. How do we operationalize recovery along with all the other stuff that we have to be concerned with? I like pictures. Do you guys like pictures? I don't know, they help me. So I stole this from Dr. David Stainer. He runs a recovery program at Yale, and he also comes here and helps us with one of our projects. And he uses this picture because a river like that, it's so kind of tranquil and everything, but it's all running in the same direction. So the partnerships that we have in Georgia, we're all going in the same direction. And that's that recovery-oriented system of care. The other thing that I'm going to bring up, and Sherry's going to talk a little more about this, is that there was a ROSC, a recovery-oriented system of care, transformation leadership program done by Dr. Ajama Achara in Chicago. And 5 of our members, Mark Baker, who is the chairperson of the GRI, wanted me to make sure I highlighted this because 5 of our members got to go to that. And so what they're going to do is bring back that information and have a discussion of how we can take those skills learned and continue to further recovery in Georgia. It's a continued movement. It's a continued progressive thing. So they're trying to be like this. Have you ever seen one of these boats? They're like a foot wide. I don't know how exactly they sit in them. But when you watch them go through the water, it's a beautiful thing to watch. But if anybody's off, if anybody's not in the same line going for that same goal, it can mess up. So we have that going on right now, that beautiful scene. Everybody in the same direction toward recovery. This is big. And I stole a few things, and Neil's here now, so I can highlight that I stole it from her. But recovery equals sustainability. After being formed in 2011, the GRI met with Commissioner Berry. The Office of Recovery Transformation was started. The listening sessions continued. And this is just kind of a recap. But it's important that we realize that sustainability comes from recovery. So if we want things to keep working in the community, if we want things to keep working in the service providers, we need to continue working towards recovery because that's sustainable change. It's going to continue. And we don't need money. We just need people locally that are willing to support the effort. And again, the peer workforce in Georgia, Dr. Stainer mentions this all the time. We have a huge resource in Georgia. We have, I think it's over 1,100 CPSs and over 250 addiction recovery empowerment specialists in the state of Georgia. And now we have the Chipper Project, which is for parents and adolescents, teaching about peer support. We have this huge population of people who know how to work with others. And it's a huge resource here in Georgia. So if you can find ways to utilize people here locally, I can promise you that there's a lot of skills with people who are recovering. So I definitely stole this one from Neil because it's important to highlight the goals of the Recovery Symposium. So why are we here? To develop local resources and leadership on recovery-focused initiatives. So you're here because you stepped up and said, I want to be a part. At least I hope that's why you're here. Is that why you're here? Yeah, okay. Woo! Thank you. Yeah. We need local leadership. We need local advocates for recovery. We need local champions to head up this work. To develop learning communities as allies and partners in the continued effort to create a system of care that's community-based. Again, Dublin knows what's good for Dublin. Atlanta doesn't necessarily know what's good for Dublin. And Columbus and Augusta, they don't necessarily know what's good for Dublin. You guys know what's good for you here. To develop local awareness of the recovery movement and local behavioral health services. So you'll see there's boards along the walls. Check those out. See what's going on. See what's available. I know the CSB of Middle Georgia is on board. Denise is right over here. She's the CEO of the CSB. Thank you, Denise, for coming. Over a brief period of time, the last several months, I've had an opportunity to get to know Denise, and I don't know that I have met a more impressive and impactful CEO of a CSB statewide. I mean, you guys are so blessed to have Denise Forbes. She is just, thank you. We're not worthy. Thank you so much for doing what you do. So I use this slide. I actually was thinking about this slide yesterday because I was watching Augusta. Is anybody golfers or like golf? Yeah, so we got a couple of you. But my experience with golf is that if I hit the ball, it's probably going to end up in the water. And sometimes I don't necessarily see the splash, but when